Please like, comment, and subscribe.
When it comes to how we look at the environment and this discussion around the environment, it's still based upon humans seeing the planet as resource, not as life. It's basically how to use resources more efficiently, and that includes all other levels of life. It's extremely arrogant. And to me, it means that also the potential in the whole shift, in that focus on the environment, we still haven't come to that place yet where we understand what this is really about. It's about humans discovering life outside themselves. But as I said, first they have to discover life inside themselves. And humans are just starting to discover that there is life inside of them. And that is connection to consciousness, connection to life that make all life one. And humans are just like starting very slowly to scratch that surface. So humans will have to become alive first before they can recognize life in others. And humans today are not alive. And by that I mean that they're asleep spiritually. And most people go around like what I call like DNA zombies. They're simply a life form operating on a biological consciousness, and there's nobody home. And that's simply the reflection of a collective consciousness, but it's changing. Spiritual consciousness is being introduced to humans, and humans are changing as a result of it. But still, most humans are deep asleep. And that means that, of course, they do not recognize life inside of them. So how could they recognize life outside of themselves? To be able to communicate, you need to be present. It's always about being in the space. I sometimes compare that to, being on a specific floor in a building. If you want to talk with people on a certain floor, you have to be on that floor. And life has many types of dimensions. And the laws of nature change based on the different spaces and the different types of dimensions. And to be able to communicate with a kind of certain type of dimension, you need to be there. You need to have expanded so that you include that vibration. Because if that dimension is invisible to you, it means that you're not on the right floor. And applying spiritual practices, to me, it really it doesn't matter what you do. Anything you can do to expand your awareness, as long as it gives you the result, it works. And that is the premise. You cannot be kind of boxed in and be inside your own head and be inside this biological consciousness and then believe that you can communicate with anyone. You can't even communicate with yourself. Most people are not even able to understand their own emotions. We're that primitive. Most people do not understand their own thoughts, their own needs. Even people who invest themselves in spiritual work. And then, in that position, we believe that we can truly communicate with others. We just see that when we communicate with other humans, there are so many misunderstandings. So many different intentions going on at the same time. We confuse each other, we confuse ourselves. So, why would you then communicate with anyone, and why would they want to communicate with you? When we communicate with different levels of life, it's important to not be like a rude tourist. Let's say that you visited a cute little town somewhere, and you just wanted to know how people live there. So you just like ring the doorbell and walk into a random house and sit down, and you don't do that, hopefully. But sometimes when it comes to so-called spiritual work, that's what we do. Often I find in spirituality that communication also with spiritual beings is a way to compensate for lack of communication with oneself. If you think of it, it's when we feel desperate. When people feel that they don't know what they're doing and where they're going and why, they just want to communicate with a spiritual being. And the problem is that they're not communicating with themselves, because then they would already know. You have to be present. And first, you have to learn about yourself. You need to communicate with yourself.